So, in this episode, I am going to analyze the recent 48 Hours episode, The Final Days of Tylee and JJ. CBS news consultant and news reporter Morgan Lowe says what horrifies people about this case is that neither Lori Vallow or Chad Daybell has been charged with murder yet. And he says, in all the years he's worked on cases as a reporter, he's never covered a story quite like this. Now, I'm going to talk about the highlights of the show, the things that I find poignant, the things that I think that are really important. If found guilty, Chad faces, on his current charges, faces only 20 years in prison. And if found guilty, Lori Vallow only faces 10 years in prison. And she could be out in half that time. Who knows? A friend of Chad called Benjamin Hyde featured in the episode for a very short time. And he says that Lori and Chad may never be charged with murder. And he says that both horrifies and terrifies him. And I can tell you, I am furious that they have not been charged with murder yet. If it was anybody else, I don't think that if the same thing had happened to me, if I was in that situation, if I had been part of this whole setup, this whole murder, I don't believe that I would be sitting here not charged with murder. I think they would have charged me with murder a long, long time ago. It's horrifying that not one of these people have been charged with murder yet. And I don't understand it. But guess what? I'm no longer waiting for murder charges. I'm going to let the police do do their jobs. I've never pretended to be an investigator. I don't pretend to be a detective. I just like to cover stories. I like to analyze things. I like to talk about the psychopathy and the sociopathy of people. I am interested in human behavior. So a friend of Chad's, Benjamin Hyde, says he is concerned that they may never be charged with murder. And we all know that Alex Cox was the family hitman. I believe, and I've always believed, that Lori Vallow is the mastermind. I actually don't believe that Chad is as dangerous as Lori Vallow. I believe that Chad is very, very dangerous, but I believe that Lori is the most manipulative of them all. I think that Alex was the puppet on Lori's string. You have two very dangerous codependent relationships going on here. You have Lori Vallow's relationship with Chad, which was a very dangerous, a wicked attraction that caused all of this. And then you have Lori and her brother, and Alex Cox seemed like he was willing to do anything to please his sister, no matter how dark, no matter how destructive it was. Alex Cox was used to do the heavy lifting. He didn't get up one day and say, I'm going to murder my niece or my nephew. He was the puppet on Lori's string. And, I do believe that Alex Cox is a very dangerous person as well. But I don't believe that he was the mastermind in this. I don't believe he was the mastermind at all. I believe he was just carrying out Lori's orders. Now, like I've told you, I don't believe religion has anything to do with these crimes. I don't believe it has anything to do with these murders. Like a lot of people, I was very fooled in the beginning. I thought that at least some of this had to do with religion. I do believe that they use, both Lori and Chad, they use religion to manipulate, to control people, and to love bomb people. I do believe that they use religion to take advantage of people, but I don't believe they believed anything of what they were telling people. I just think that, it's like a situation like a Charles Manson or a Jim Jones. Religion is simply the vehicle that they use to control and manipulate people, to get advantage of people, to take advantage of people, to use people and to discard people and to exploit people. So I don't believe that they believe any of what they were telling people. I believe that religion was simply a manipulative tool that they used to control people, to discard people, to take advantage of people. And I don't believe that religion is what's happening here. I think this case is all about money and greed. I don't even think it's about love or lust. I think it's about money, power, and greed. And, Charles Vallow was murdered so that Laurie could get her hands on that $1 million life insurance. And Tammy Daybell was murdered for insurance money. And when you actually look at this case and examine this case and read about this case, it's very obvious what's going on. It's very obvious that all of these murders are linked. It's very obvious that all of these murders have, Laurie, Chad, or Alex, either of the three of them are all involved. They say innocent until proven guilty. That is just that's just a courtroom term. That is, no one believes that Laurie and Chad are innocent. I have not come across one person who believes any of them are innocent. And I actually think that Laurie Vallow is a very, very dangerous person. I mean, I've been following true crime for a long time, and I know, I watch Deadly Women and Deceitful Women, and I examine Deceitful Women and Deadly Women and Dangerous Women. I know the Rose Wests of the world, the Carla Homolkas of the world, the Jodi Ariases of the world. I've read and studied Evil Women, and I think that the one that scares me the most is actually Laurie Vallow. She frightens me more than even Myra Hindley, who is one of the most wicked women of all time. She's no longer alive, but, she frightens me because she has the perfect cover. She has, the smile, the way she speaks. She looks normal. She looks like a soccer mom. She has the exterior. Her facade is very benign. But beneath all that, she is a very, very dangerous and a very manipulative person. Tylee's best friend and her mother, who live in Hawaii, took part in the show. They are both extremely distraught about the death of Tylee and JJ, as anyone who knew them would be. JJ's teacher featured in the show as well. She was very distraught, as anyone would be able to understand. She said that he was just a wonderful little boy. He loved dancing. He loved music. I know that Tylee had a vivacious personality. She really loved music. She was into hip hop, rap, pop music. I mean, she loved Soulja Boy. This was a very vivacious girl, a lively girl, a girl that loved life and loved her brother. And to think that anyone could do this and not feel any remorse. I haven't got the feeling that Laurie Vallow feels any guilt, remorse, or sadness for what she's done. And that makes her very, very dangerous. I just don't get the feeling that there's anything there in terms of a mother's love, a mother's regret, remorse, or anything. This is a very dangerous, devious, diabolical woman. And she needs to pay for what she's done. It's very obvious that she knew full well that those kids were not alive, and that's exactly why she couldn't produce them. By the time she married Chad in November, she hadn't seen those kids for quite some time. She knew they weren't alive. She knew she couldn't produce those kids, and she never gave any explanation as to why she couldn't produce those children, other than saying she was protecting them, which we all know is BS. I am really, really saddened and sickened by the privilege that she's been afforded. Like I said, I don't believe that I believe that if I was in the same situation, if I'd done the same thing, I would have been charged by now. I would have been charged with something a lot more than what she's been charged with. I wouldn't be facing just 10 years in prison. And a lot of people have said to me they don't understand it either. And people of all backgrounds and ethnicities, women from all walks of life have said to me, hey, how was this woman able to get away with it for so long? I know that I would have been charged by now. I have people saying that to me all the time. from all walks of life, from all ages, from all ethnicity. They say to me, I'm a mother, and I know that I would not have been able to get away with doing all that Lori Vallow has been able to get away with. It was a good show, the 48 Hours episode. It didn't really tell me anything that I don't know. If you've been following this case closely, you would have heard everything that's in it. You would have known all the things that are in it. But I thought the personal interviews with Lori's friend who lives in Hawaii, with Tylee's best friend and her mother, JJ's teacher, I think getting those to sit in front of the camera and talk about how they felt about the death of Tylee and JJ, I thought that part was quite touching, and it made the show a little bit more personal than I thought it would be. The other thing, and the last thing that I want to talk about, is the fact that Alex Cox, in one of the murders, was only at Chad's property for 17 minutes. In that time, a grave was dug, a body was buried, and other things were done to the body as well, which I won't go into because I don't get graphic like that. And the reporter said that there's no way that Alex would have been able to dig a grave, bury the body, and do all the things that he did that were done to that body in 17 minutes, that he had to have help. And of course he did. And we know who helped him. We know who he conspired to do this with, and that was Chad Daybell. So, because you can't, Chad Daybell was once a grave digger, so he knew how to dig graves. And I wouldn't be surprised if the grave was probably dug before Alex turned up, because I believe that all three of them conspired to do this. Like I said, I believe that Alex was used and manipulated by his sister, and I think he probably was in awe of Chad. And you have two very dangerous codependent dynamics going on. The wicked attraction between Lori and Chad, and the codependency between Alex and Lori, mixed with the codependency between Lori and Chad. And it just created a deadly recipe, a very poisonous, deadly recipe. And it's just sad, very, very sad, that Charles Vallow's murder was not looked into and investigated, because if it had been, these lives could have been saved. At least Tylee and JJ's life could have been saved and should have been saved. Tylee had her whole life ahead of her. She was a good person. She was loving. And so was JJ. If Kay hadn't ordered that welfare check, we might never have known about all of these murders. We might never have known. They might have been able to get away with it. Thank God for Kay. That's all I can say.